Hi, coach.
Hi Ankush, how are you?
I'm good, good.
I was talking with Norman
Okay.
today, so we was talking about this meeting. I will give them. I tell to Norman, just to put what is usually what is because it's too much, and also we have from previous uh, this session with referee we have something what we didn't finish. So
Yeah, he's there with
and
us.
I Okay, and I asked just to Panaji, Atanu, our friend, to be able, to last time was problem with the voice, to be louder today.
Yeah,
I will start, when we start, I will start just few words to uh, tell about referees and coaches, about our game, and then we can continue. Norman and Atanu, they will talk about this
yeah.
topic. Topic. Coach Matic is going Monday
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Tuesday,
Yeah, yeah,
and
Monday.
Tuesday. Then we have Wednesday and Thursday. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So what about Thursday? This last day, what we was talking.
Thursday we will discuss, coach.
Okay. Again, I have problem with internet. Nothing. They didn't do anything, about my home internet. So it's a big problem for me.
I will talk to them, coach.
You tell me that you already talk.
Yeah, I already spoke. I will spoke once more.
Okay. You will tell me when we can start, yes?
Yeah, yeah. I will.
you hear me, coach?
Good evening, Norman.
Good evening, coach.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, coach?
Good, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Me too.
Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
Hi, Atanu.
Hello, coach. How are you?
Good, good. I will be better if I can hear you, but again, it's a little bit problem with
Same. Oh, okay.
if it's possible to.
Hello. Now you can hear me?
It's same. No problem. This is the best what we can do now. But
I don't know, coach. What's wrong with
how are you? Everything is okay? Fine.
Yes, fine, coach.
Thanks God. Are you safe over there?
Yeah, we are in lockdown.
Uh,
Good evening,
I
Norman,
think
sir.
Good evening, Atanu.
Can you hear me, sir? सर आप सुन सकते हैं मुझे?
Yeah, I can hear you, Atanu. Little more louder if you can talk to be better. It's very clearly audible to me, but
Okay, I will try, sir.
if you can increase the volume.
I'll increase it. Full volume.
Coach, we can start.
okay. Okay. So good evening to everyone. Hope again that all of you are healthy and safe. Today we should continue with our friends and also important part of basketball with our referees. First of all, I want to say hello to Mr. Norman Itzak, chairman of technical commissioner of Basketball Federation of India, and also our friend Panaji Atanum, FIBA international referee, who have a lot of experience and who is the right person to help us to easy to understand better our game basketball. So there is a lot of there is lot of synonym for referee. First of all, what does mean referee? Official or they're actually their judge. They're judge on the court, and their job, like all person from this professional, is to find the thieves. I joke when I said find the thieves, but actually this is their job. You know, they are looking for violation. They are looking for something what is part of the game, and that's why they are not such as popular in all sports, not only in our sport in basketball. So how difficult is their job? You can imagine. One of changing was when before was two referee officiate the game. Now is three referees. So what does mean? That is the game became more complicated and more. Maybe you know the speed is now much more than before, and that's why they need to be with more focus, and for sure when they add one more referee does mean that it was necessary to But whatever, all these rules and all this changing in our sport, what is one of the famous sports, when the rules, when it's question of the rules, because as you know, almost every this period of Olympic between two Olympic games, FIBA change rules and want to improve this game much more. Also, what is intention, because as you know, the rules in NBA and the rules all over the world out of NBA league was not the same. So the intention is now to be close, to be close to actually to NBA rules and to be almost the same rules all over the world. I will not talk too much. I will just talk a little bit, introduce, and then I will give words to our friends because we have a lot of job today and not too much time. So first of all, when we are talking about coaches, it does mean that you must be a normal person. First of all, you need to follow some codex. You need to be uh, looking good. To be fresh, shaved, to be not to be like. And I think the same is with the referee. They care a lot about their looking and about their fitness also. So this is the first what I want to put focus on this. Second, of course, like coaches, like players, the referees are also create their career and their personality with a lot of experience. So my point of view is that as coaches, how coaches improve, the same is for referees. So if you start to be coach of in grassroots and then both men's, women's teams, and then senior, and then high level national team or something like this. I think is the same important for referee. So usually, as a coach, we never choose what we are practicing, and for our career, for our improvement is much more necessary to be coach of all categories. So that's why I also wanted to suggest that to be good referee, you need all school and for can help you for future. So as a coach, you need to know uh, to answer on any questions of your players. Also, the referee need to know complete the rules of basketball and to be ready for all questions, during the game, during competition. So that's why theoretically, not only to looking good, with good fitness, they also need to know very, very well the rules. And of course, uh, when they cooperate with the players and with the referees, with the coaches, sometimes they need to explain, because for sure, if somebody complain, it does mean that he don't know rules or he don't know enough good rules. So this is also my suggestion, and they do this usually, especially these high level referees, So as you will see at the end of our session today, nothing is bigger than a game. It does mean that, sometimes coaches make circ on the court, players also. Sometimes referees also wanted to be in focus, to be the main part of. This is not good for sure, not good for nobody, not good for coaches, players, and referees. So the best referee, is that one who is on the court but not visible. No, nobody feel that he do his job. He is maximum in focus. And our game, as Coach Matic said, is very, very frequent. It's very, very dynamic game. So according to this uh, situation, the mistakes are much more possible to make. So if and everybody make mistake, player, coach, and of course the referee must make mistake. This is normal. So me as a coach, I'm looking first, uh, why he did. I don't react from first, action. I just check. I want to see did he make mistake because he didn't see enough good, and then we can communicate. A normal way. I will ask him maybe with eyes, what happened. He will said, he will. And for me, the most important is to be honest. Once when I make mistake, I will tell to everyone, that I make mistake. I have not this kind of problem. But some referees, they have some problem, ego and everything, and it's very difficult to communicate. So with this referee, I will not continue on same way. I will looking and more for his mistake, next mistake, to see what is really his criterion. He didn't see, he don't want to see, or something like that. You never know. But usually normal communication. I insist on normal communication, and especially for young coaches, be disciplined. Be if you don't didn't see something, if you not agree with the referee, tell him on normal way. It will be much better for both of you. Also, what I want, and this is the last point, I never looking that somebody is guilty when I make mistake. So first of all, I'm starting for myself. Did I do everything? I mean, did I do everything on the court, on the practices before I start to play game? You know, and finally, uh, I'm start from myself. So if my players are making usually violations, so it does mean that I didn't do my job quite good. So this is first. So that's why in previous my session I was talking about how is important this basketball stance offensively, defensively. When you are on defense, to show to referee that you don't want to make fouls. Show him hands. Today, basketball is a little bit different, especially 3x3, what became most popular now. This is actually full contact. It is, I call this, it's legal wrestling. So actually, basketball is full with contact, and that's why you need to prepare your players. Also, nobody likes contact, and especially if you don't practice on the practices, if you don't practice on that condition, full contact, legal with body, with ball pressure, maximum. This player will be not ready for the game, and they will usually ask protection, from referee. What is wrong for my opinion? So that's why you need everything offensively. Offensive basketball stance, very important, especially with these big guys, on low post position, because uh, sometimes they don't make violation, but they do pretty slow. And this dribbling, I'm talking now about traveling, about walking. This dribbling is too high, and even he don't make mistake, it's too slow, and referee call without any problem. So what does mean? That we didn't do our job. We coaches, we didn't do our job on proper way. We didn't uh, educate our players and practice our players. To be low and to save this first step and to save this first dribbling, not to make violation. And there is lot of other examples. I don't want to take more times because we have enough job. Thank you so much. And please, Mr. Norman, continue.
Thank you, Coach. Good evening, friends. Like Coach Zora has rightly told that everybody has got a big stake in every game, but then not everybody will be able to do everything without any mistakes. Mistakes can occur from the side of the coaches, from the players, from the referees, but then to have a smooth finish and to have a win-win situation for everybody, it is we do have to accept certain mistakes which can occur from the other person. Starting off from where we stopped the other day, one thing where the 8 second is on your screen, but then before that, I would like to go on to the 5 seconds violation. There are three situations when a 5 second violation can be blown by an official. First is when a player is closely guarded. A player who is holding a live ball is closely guarded by an opponent who is in an active legal guarding position. If the player with the ball is not able to pass or to shoot or to dribble within 5 seconds, and if he is closely guarded by a defensive player, the referee has got an opportunity to call for a 5 second violation. The second situation where a 5 second violation can be given by an official is that on a free throw situation, once the lead official hands over the ball to the free throw shooter, it is the duty of the free throw shooter to release the ball within 5 seconds after it is placed at his disposal. So coaches, please instruct your players that once a ball is given to a free throw shooter, he or she cannot take more than 5 seconds to release the ball. The third situation comes during a throw-in situation. On an out-of-bounds play, when a ball is handed over by the referee to a player who is taking the out-of-bound throw, this player should release the ball within 5 seconds so that the game is not stalled and everything goes as per the plan. Now we come down to the 8 second rule. Previously, we had that the ball has to be brought into the front court within 10 seconds, but now FIBA has reduced it to 8 seconds. 8 seconds in the backcourt means a team that has possession of a ball in the backcourt must cause the ball to go into the front court within 8 seconds. The ball is deemed to be in the front court when a player has both his feet and the ball in contact with the front court. I'm making it very clear that the ball has entered into a front court when a player of a team has got both his feet and the ball in control in the front court. If a player is straddling the center line means 1 foot in the front court and 1 foot in the back court. This does not constitute that the ball has gone into the front court. The ball still continues to be in the back court, and then the 8 second count is still on. If the ball is touched, when the ball is touched by a defensive player or also touches him, who has a part of his body in the backcourt, the ball is still considered to be in the backcourt. Likewise, if an official is in the backcourt, an official means, I mean a referee, if the official is in the backcourt, and if the ball touches a referee, then the ball is deemed to be still in the back court and has not gone into the front court. So in all these situations, the 8-second count will continue. One thing which is very, very important is if a player is dribbling from the back court and going into the front court, and if he's straddling the center line, and he passes back to his player who is in the back court or who is straddling the center line, the 8-second count will still continue. There may be situations when the shot clock shows 16. That means a team has already consumed 8 seconds and the ball has not yet gone into the front court. But the count which is taken by the trail official has precedence over what time is displayed on the shot clock. So coaches, please instruct your player that if even 16 is displayed on the shot clock, or 15 is displayed, there could be an error which has been made by a table official. The trail official takes a count stating that counting whether a team has extended the 8-second validity by which it has to take the ball into the front court. The 8-second count shall continue with the remaining time when a team which had control of the ball is awarded a throw-in in the backcourt. I'm making it very clear. The 8-second count with any team will continue.
There is some
team which had
problem.
previously control of the ball. In ball has gone out of bounds. Either it has touched, coach, okay?
Yes, yes, just there is
Atanu, am
some
I
problem
audible?
with connection. It's okay.
Okay. Atanu, are you?
Yes, sir. Okay, okay.
In the following situations, the 8-second count will continue. That means, suppose after 5 seconds, the ball has gone out of bounds and the same team is getting a throw in. The team has got just 3 seconds to take the ball into the front court. Likewise, if the referee stops a game because of injury to a player of the same team, the shot clock is stopped, the game clock is stopped, and on resumption, it will continue from the same time. That means only the remaining time is at the disposal of the team which has possession of the ball. In a technical foul, when a team has possession, suppose team A has possession of the ball and a technical foul has been called on a player of team A, the resultant penalty is 1 free throw which is awarded to team B, and team A will continue to have only the same amount of time which was remaining on the shot clock when the foul was blown. In a jump ball situation and a subsequent position, the same team will have only the remaining time. Also in a double foul, because in a double foul, it is a foul which happens when both the teams have the same gravity. The team which had possession will continue to have the possession, and also they will have only the remaining time which is available on the shot clock. Like I told you earlier that once the game clock, the display on the game clock shows less than 16 seconds, please don't be overawed that the 8-second count, the 8-second validity for a team in the backcourt is over. The precedence lies with the referee who takes the count. We now move on to 24 seconds. Article 29 deals with 24 seconds, and this is, I consider, as the most important point and the most very crucial aspect of the table official. A 24-second operator should be very, very careful because he is the one who has to decide at a fraction of a second whether the clock has to reset to 24, whether the clock has to set to 14, or whether we will continue. Coming back to what 24 seconds is, a team which gains possession of a ball, that means a new position on the playing court, must make an attempt for a field goal within 24 seconds. The criteria here is that an attempt has to be made and the ball has to be released from the player's hands. If the ball is still in the hands of the player and the shot clock buzzer goes, that means there is a violation committed by that particular team unless the ball is released from the player's hands. And after the ball is released, the second criteria is the ball should touch the ring. If the ball falls short of the ring or if the ball touches only the backcourt, the 24-second count will continue. And if there is a buzzer blown, that means it is a 24-second violation. In the event of the ball missing the ring, and if the same team gets possession of the ball, it is a 24-second violation. I repeat, if an attempt is made, the buzzer goes, and the same team gets possession of the ball without the ball striking the rim, then it is a 24-second violation. However, if the opponent team, that is opponent team, we always say the defensive team, and we call it as team B. If team B gains clear control and possession of the ball, the 24-second count will start afresh for team B. However, if the team B player is not able to get clear control of the ball just touches him and then goes on to be collected by team A, the 24-second violation or the 24-second count will continue. There are 24-second violation is there, or when a shot clock has to be reset to 24, when the shot clock will be reset to 14, when the shot by an official, and if the throw-in is from the backcourt, the shot clock shall be reset to 24. I repeat once again, if the game is stopped by an official, and if the throw-in is from the backcourt, the shot clock shall be reset to 14. If the throw-in is from the front court, and the shot clock displays more than 14, then the shot clock is not reset. This is when a throw-in is from the front court. However, if the shot clock displays 13 seconds or less, then the shot clock will be reset to 14 seconds. These are some of the three issues where the shot clock operator should decide whether the shot clock will be reset to 14, whether it will continue from where it was stopped, or whether it has to be reset to 24 seconds. If the new offensive team is awarded a throw-in as per the alternating possession procedure, then we have two situations. First is, if the throw-in is from the backcourt, the shot clock is reset to 24. If the throw-in is from the front court, the shot clock is set to 14 seconds. Now, when the game clock shows 2 minutes or less, I'm very clear, it is 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter or in any overtime, and a charge timeout has been taken by the team which is entitled to a throw-in from the backcourt. I repeat, 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter or in the overtime, the team which has to get possession has requested for a charge timeout. The coach has an option to decide from where the game will resume, either from the front court or from the back court. If it is a throw-in situation because the ball has gone out of bounds, and if the throw-in is from the back court, the shot clock shall continue from where it was stopped. If in the front court and less than 13 seconds, shot clock will continue, and if it is 14 or greater than 14, it will be reset to 14. As a result of a foul or a violation, if the throw-in is from the back court, the shot clock is reset to 24. And if it is from the front court, the shot clock will be set to 14. If a timeout is taken by the team in possession, the throw-in from the back court will entitle a team to have 24 seconds on the shot clock. And if it is from the front court, it is 14 seconds. This option is left with the coach who has requested for the charge timeout. And once at the completion of the timeout, the official will find out from the concerned coach whether he would like the throw-in to be from the front court or from the back court. And it is his moral obligation to inform the other coach from where the throw-in is to be taken. And immediately based on this, the shot clock operator will set the shot clock either to 14 or to 24. In the event of a throw-in following an unsportsmanlike foul or a disqualifying foul, the shot clock shall be reset to 14 seconds only, because the throw-in will be taken from the throw-in line, which is 8.325 meters from the end line, and the team invariably, whether it is team A or team B, will be entitled to only 14 seconds on the shot clock. After an unsuccessful field goal attempt, which I mentioned earlier, if the same team gets possession, it will be 14 seconds. And if the opponent team gets the ball, the shot clock will be reset to 24 seconds. Now we will go on to ball return to backcourt, that is Article 30. Like I mentioned earlier, a team is in control of a live ball in its front court when a player of that team is touching his front court with both feet. This is very, very clear that both the feet of the offensive player should be in contact with the front court, and he should either be catching the ball or dribbling the ball in his front court. Suppose the player has got both his feet in his front court and is dribbling the ball in the back court. That means the ball is still in the back court. However, once he has positioned himself in the front court, the ball is in contact with the front court, and the ball happens to touch either the center line or goes into the back court, this is a backcourt violation. The second point is, when a team is in control of a live ball in the front court, it has been caused to be illegally returned to its backcourt if a player of that team is the last to touch the ball in the front court and his own teammate is the first person to touch the ball in the back court. This is very, very clear. In the event of a ball being tapped away by an offensive player, by a defensive player, and the ball goes into the backcourt of the team which has the possession of the ball, this is not a backcourt. An important part of backcourt is the rules were changed in 2017. A player who is airborne, suppose he has jumped from the front court, his team has got no possession of the ball, he gains possession of the ball in the front court, and because of this, his movement makes him to land in the backcourt. It is not construed that the player has returned the ball to the back. The position of the player from where he is before he received the ball is not a consideration now, but it is the player who has collected the ball and to which part of the floor he has landed after collecting the ball is considered to decide whether the ball has been returned to the backcourt or is still in the front court. This is not a backcourt violation. If a player is straddling the center line, I said straddling is 1 foot in the front court and 1 foot in the back court. The ball is still considered to be in the back court. In the initial jump ball, we have only one jump ball in the game now. At the initial jump ball, if a ball is tossed and if the ball is tapped by a player and a player who is standing in the front court jumps, collects the ball and lands in the back court, it doesn't mean that he has committed a backcourt violation. Likewise, for a throw-in from the front court out of bounds, if a player is being given a ball out of bounds by the referee for a throw-in, this player cannot pass the ball into the backcourt because the team has already got position by receiving the ball from the referee. If a player is straddling the center line, this happens during the start of every quarter, that is the second quarter, the third quarter, the fourth quarter, or any overtime. The ball can be passed by the player who is taking the throw-in onto any part of the court, either the front court or the back. Now, with this, we have actually completed. Atanu, would you like to show some videos regarding the backcourt violation? Yeah, I request Ankush to kindly show us the videos, please.
This is sir old video, that's why that we call backward violation. But as per current rule, this is not a backward violation.
Yeah, this was the rule in 2006, like you can see, but subsequently the rule has been changed, straddling the center line and par is not a backcourt.
We can see in this video only offensive player came into the front court, but ball was in the back court. That's why he can again go back to the back court. This is also legal.
Both the feet of the player were not in contact with the front court. In this situation, the player jumped from the back court and collected the ball in the air and landed in the front court. In the present rule, this is not a backcourt violation.
Sir, no, this is backward violation.
This one?
Correct, sir. Yes, because already offensive team is controlling the front court.
Okay.
He jumped. He's in from back court. He jumped and landed in the front court. Received the ball and landed in the front.
So today now we will be starting on the goaltending, interference, unsportsmanlike foul, faking a foul, technical foul, disqualifying foul, and what are its penalties. And we will be discussing, Atanu and myself, and we'll also be showing you some videos. And I now request Atanu to kindly take over.
First, about the goaltending. Sir, you can continue this rule, no? After then I will come. No problem.
Okay.
Because we have very less time.
Okay. Regarding goaltending during a field goal, when a player touches the ball, which is on a shot for a field goal, and the ball is completely above the level of the ring, and if it is on its downward flight or it has touched the backboard, then this is called goaltending. A goaltending can happen either by an offensive player or by a defensive player also. With regard to goaltending in a free throw situation, when a player touches the ball while the ball is in flight and before it touches the ring, if either an offensive player or a defensive player touches the ball, it tantamounts to goaltending. Goaltending restrictions apply till the ball has no longer the possibility to enter the basket. If the ball has got a possibility to enter the basket and if any player interferes with the direction of the ball, this is called goaltending. And after the ball has touched the ring, if the ball bounces up and if it is coming down, and there's every possibility of the ball entering the basket, it is called a goaltending violation.
We have one video, sir.
One more, Atanu. A goaltending on a final free throw by a defensive player will tantamount to the basket being counted and also a technical foul being called on the defensive player. I repeat once again, on the final free throw, if a defensive player intercepts the ball before the ball touches the ring, 1 point is awarded for the interference, and apart from this, a technical foul is also awarded against the player who has interfered with the ball. Any videos, Atanu?
Yes, one video we have. Ankush, can you play? Ankush,
Atanu, you can explain the situation here.
ball is totally above the level of the ring, and blue player is touched the ball during its downward flight. So this is a goaltending violation.
Do we have any other video or shall I
No,
continue?
sir. Next, interference.
Okay. Next part is interference. An interference occurs when a ball is touched by a player, either a field goal or the last free throw, while the ball is in contact with the ring. This is very, very important. Like you see in the third line of the first bullet point, while the ball is in contact with the ring, it should not be touched by any player. A player who touches the ball or the basket or the backboard while there is still a possibility of the ball to enter the basket, tantamounts to interfering with the ball. Interference also refers to when a player reaches through the basket and touches the ball. That means he puts his hand from beneath and prevents the ball from entering from the top by putting his hand from inside the net and pushing the ball out. A defensive player who touches the ball or basket while the ball is within the basket, thus preventing the ball from passing through the basket. If the ball is on the ring and if a defensive player either pulls the net or touches the backboard, vibrates it in such a way so that there's a possibility of the ball coming out when the ball is in contact with the ring, tantamounts to interference with the ball. A player causes the basket to vibrate or grasps the basket, preventing the ball from entering the basket, or has caused the ball to enter the basket. This is mainly done by an offensive player. Here, one thing we have to keep in notice, no player, either offensive or defensive, shall touch the ball after it has touched the ring while it still has the possibility to enter the basket. In this situation, the penalty is if the infraction or the interference is done by an offensive player, no points are awarded. Please be very, very clear that if the interference is done by an offensive player, no points are awarded and the game shall resume with a throw-in to the opponent team from the free throw line extended. And if the interference is done by a defensive player, either 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points are awarded as the situation warrants from where the throw was, where the field goal was attempted for. Atanu, any videos?
Yes, sir. One video is there.
Yeah.
Ankush, can you play the video?
So kindly make a note, what is the difference between a goaltending and an interference? An interference is when the ball is touching the rim, and interference is when the ball is not permitted to reach up to the rim. In the video, you can see a defensive player, hands touching the ring, which tantamounts to vibrating the ring, and hence an interference called by the referees. Now we will be going on to articles 32 to 38, which detail about the fouls, the different types of fouls which can occur during a game. And before we go on to that, the officials usually, we as officials usually look into the aspect of verticality, the principle of verticality, and also observe the cylinder principle. Just to mention that the cylinder principle has been in vogue only for a defensive player thus far, but with the new rules which are going to come into force from October 2020, the cylinder principle has also been earmarked for an offensive player. But we will not be talking about the cylinder principle for the offensive player now, because the rule is still to be changed and it will be effective only from October. So before that, I now request Atanu to kindly go ahead with certain fouls, which we feel that there are some sort of a differences between what a coach expects, what a player feels, and how a referee blows a situation. And basically, this is the hand-checking foul, which has come under a lot of scrutiny. And I think Atanu, with all his experience, would be able to deliver why a player should not have his hands placed on a player who is in movement with or without the ball.
Yeah, hand checking foul is the illegal use of hands or arm to impede the movement or progress of an offense opponent with or without the ball. Uh, if a player momentarily place a hands or arm, then this is not necessarily illegal unless the action is repeated. A, in this situation, a verbal warning may be given to prevent the rough play by the officials, but under no circumstances defensive player place two hands upon an opponent even within his cylinder.
Atharu, one thing I want you to clarify with the coaches is whether just mere feeling the player or trying to impede by pushing or keeping a stronger hand on the player, how will you decide on this?
Yeah, sir. A defensive player facing his opponent has no legal reason to place his hands or arm upon an opponent.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please continue.
Next, I want to show two videos about this hand checking. Ankush, can you play the video?
Video one.
Yeah. Number 11 of this sky blue is trying to stop his movement with this feeling. This is hand checking.
Atharu, I just also want you to clarify with the coaches
Yeah.
whether a hand checking foul is also called on a defensive player who is not guarding an offensive player who has a ball with him? Or is it necessary that the offensive player should have the ball with him?
No, sir.
Okay.
With or without.
Without the ball also,
Yes.
the referee can call a hand-checking foul
Yes.
if the defensive player is trying to prevent an offensive player from moving or impeding his
Yeah,
progress.
if he try to stop his freedom of movement.
Okay. Ankush, second video, please.
This is with the both hands. Both hands means, sir, obvious foul.
Have we any more videos or?
No, sir. This
Okay.
is
Next slide. Ankush.
next.
Yeah.
Next, about the fake or flop. Fake or flop is an theoretical action is done by a player to take unfair advantage from the official. Some
That
player, yes, sir.
that means you feel that an offensive player is acting in such a way, or a defensive player
Yeah,
where there is no physical contact, but acting in such a way only to call, get the referee, give him a foul in his favor.
yes, sir. Sometimes that is, sometimes there is no contact. Sometimes maybe very less contact, but
Minimal
they are
contact.
trying. What, sir? Some player try to trick the referees, taking a contact on maximize an initial contact.
Okay.
Some defensive player without a legal guarding position try to cause contact onto the torso and backward, fall backward, taking an offensive foul. Uh, Especially, sir, we find this kind of situation we can see during charge block and screening situation. I can show two videos. Ankush,
Okay.
can you play the videos? Ankush,
You can explain the situation, Atanu, here.
yeah, in this situation, you can see the yellow defensive player. He is standing in legal guarding position. When red player is started moving, he suddenly reacted and fell down backward. But
Okay.
it is a very big theoretical action. That's why referee gave direct technical foul to him.
There was actually no contact, so much of impact by which he could have actually fallen down like that.
Yes, is there is marginal contact. After then he fake or flop. Referee can warn, and during the dead ball, referee can communicate with the coaches. But if there is no contact till player is faking, that time referee can give direct technical foul to that player.
Atanu, one more thing I just wanted to tell you that if a warning is given for a particular player for resorting to this flopping attitude, and if the same is conveyed to the coach,
Yeah.
that means if a player of the same team again commits it, no further warning can be given and directly a foul can be called. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This warning for the whole team and remaining of the whole game. One warning
Okay.
means that is applicable for the all team members.
Entire duration of the game and applicable to all players.
Yes, sir. You can see here also. There is very marginal contact, but suddenly he fell down. White player.
Let us see the slow motion. So a referee will call a flopping foul or a faking foul if there is no legitimate contact or a contact, an excessive contact by which a player can really fall. And if a player is just exaggerating the contact, then the referee has got every right to call a faking foul.
Yes, sir. That means technical foul, sir.
Okay. Next, Atanu. Double foul.
Next, double foul. A double foul is a situation in which two opponents commit personal foul against each other approximately the same time. To consider two fouls as a double foul, the following condition must apply. We can see the conditions. Both foul are players foul. That should be personal foul, normal personal foul. Both fouls involve physical contact. Both fouls are between the same two opponents fouling each other. Not like that here one foul, another side is another foul. That is not called a double foul. And both foul have the same penalty. This is the important, very important, sir, because if suppose A team is having team foul penalty in four team foul penalty, but B team is having two team foul penalty, this is not called as a double foul. This is we have to treat separately. This is not a double foul. Yes, sir.
In the event of a double foul, Atanu, just to go back, we have to mention, suppose a foul has been called on A4 and B4.
Yeah.
And the team, that is A team, had possession of the ball. The throw it will still continue to be with the A team.
A team.
If it is a double foul.
Yes.
And the shot clock will continue from the same point.
Yes, sir.
Next, Ankush. Technical foul.
Yeah, the technical foul. The proper conduct of the game demands the full and loyal cooperation of the players and team bench personnel with the officials, table officials, and commissioners, if present. Any deliberate or repeated non-cooperation or non-compliance with the spirit and intent of the rule shall be considered as a technical foul. A technical foul is a player's non-contact foul of a behavioral nature. In under this, sir, we have so many points. Suppose any player abuse to other team players or officials, or disrespectfully communicate with the officials or with the opponent coach. These all are non-contact foul. This is come under the technical foul.
Okay, Atanu, just a small clarification.
Yes,
In
sir.
certain matches, it is observed that a player of team A is abused by the same team coach.
Yeah.
Like team A coach is using vulgar language on the court against his own team player for some reason. So at times we have got complaints from the other coach that he is using bad language or vulgar language, and should this be penalized?
Yes, sir. This should be penalized because this is not a true spirit of the game. This is not a sportsmanship in front of the spectator, in front of the other team. A coach scold or abuse his own player also. This is not allowed during the games. We have to
And
penalize.
the penalty of a technical foul.
Yeah, penalty of a technical foul if only one free throw. There is earlier it was free throw plus ball position, but nowadays only one free throw and game will start from where it was stopped.
Okay.
But sir, one thing, if some other penalty is due during this technical foul penalty should be administered first, after then all other penalties.
Okay, I have a small clarification, Atanu.
Yes, sir.
Team A player
Yeah.
is in the act of shooting
Okay.
and a foul is committed. The basket is not counted. So team A player is entitled for 2 free throws.
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, a technical foul on team A coach is called.
Yes.
That means team B has got 1 free throw.
Yes, sir.
So which will be administered first? The foul, the penalty of the technical foul, or the penalty of the shooting foul?
Sir, that act of shooting foul happened earlier, but because of this technical foul, act of shooting foul will remain, uh,
Will be administered next.
yeah, will be administered next after this technical foul free throw administered with no lineup, and then this 2 free throw will administer for the act of shooting foul.
Okay, so the team B, because of the foul, technical foul on team B, team A, the team B player will first take the free throw
1 free throw, no lineup.
because of the technical foul.
Yes, sir.
And in this situation, is it the duty of the coach to identify the player who will be taking the technical foul?
Yes, sir. Who will take the shot, sir?
Okay.
That team coach will identify. Referee will ask the coach. After then, that coach will rectify that number. This player will take this free throw.
Okay. Then the action moves on to the other court, and then the foul for the shooting foul, the penalty for the
normal play.
Okay,
With
okay.
the lineup, normal play. Yeah.
These are some of the points where technical fouls can be called.
Yes, sir.
So I think we'll be distributing these videos to everybody, so that I don't think we need to read them in detail. And now, Atanu, you can go to the unsportsmanlike foul.
Yeah. As unsportsmanlike foul is a player contact foul, which is the judgment of an official, is not a legitimate attempt to directly play the ball within the spirit and intent of the rule. To judge a foul is to call unsportsmanlike. We, as a referee, apply some. We have some criteria. We have to follow about according to that criteria. First criteria is not legitimate to attempt to direct play the ball within the spirit and intent of the rule. A player is playing with the man. He is not even try to play the ball. In this situation, if foul occurred, referee will call unsportsmanlike foul.
It need not be a hard foul. It need not be a hard foul.
No, sir. That is some other criteria.
Okay,
This is only legitimate, not legitimate attempt to play the ball, sir. This is first criteria. I can show you videos. Ankush, can you play the first 1 and 2 video? You can see in this video, no, sir, that red team player, after the rebound, he didn't try to play the ball. He simply grabbed his jersey and trying to stop her. So this is the unsportsmanlike foul. You can see this.
So any attempt which is made not to play the ball directly, but trying to get an advantage either by pushing the player or pulling the jersey of the player will result in an unsportsmanlike foul.
Yes, sir. In this video also you can see defensive player didn't try to play the ball. Simply he wants to stop her and make a foul. She was number 14 of white, was dribbling in right hand, but simply number 13 grabbed her left hand. So her intention is not to play the ball. This is also unsportsmanlike foul. Ankush, next slide. Uh, okay, next criteria is excessive. No, before this one.
Previous slide, previous.
Yeah. Second criteria is excessive contact or hard contact. If a player is trying to play the ball, but after the after he tried to play the ball, he simply trying to hit or push very hardly or aggressively to offensive player or defensive player. This is also called unsportsmanlike foul. I can show you video. Ankush, next. In this situation, yellow player is going for the layup, but maroon player he try to defense, but very aggressively and hard. You can see this contact. This is also unsportsmanlike foul.
This is
So-
foul for jail.
So even if a defensive player is trying to uh, defend the ball, but if the contact is excessive,
After that, sir, defense follow.
then we should call an unsportsmanlike foul.
Yeah, follow through is hard or
Okay.
excessive. Then we can call an unsportsmanlike foul.
Okay.
In this video also, number 4 is going for short, but black player contact very hard contact of that black player. You can see this now. Yeah. This is also unsportsmanlike. I think some problem. Yeah. Next slide. Third criteria is an unnecessary contact caused by the defensive player in order to stop the progress of the offensive team in transition. This applies until the offensive player begins his act of shooting. During transition, sometimes what happens, sir? During transition, new defensive team try to stop or make the foul immediately. So in this situation, during transition, unnecessary contact, that means it can be unsportsmanlike foul. Ankush, can you show the video 5? This is doing some problem is there in the video. Blue team gets the ball and just started their transition. Immediately, white team make a foul, unnecessary foul. He wants to stop him immediately. This is also a unsportsmanlike foul. Yeah. Ankush, next point. Next slide. Criteria 5. 4. Ankush. Yeah. Next criteria is fourth criteria is contact by the defensive player from behind or laterally on an opponent in an attempt to stop the fast break, and there is no defensive player between the offensive player and opponent's basket. This applies hello, until the player begins his act of shooting. This is during the fast break situation. If a player often if during that fast break, if offensive player and in between the offensive ring and offensive player, there is no defensive player. Hello, hello. There is no defensive player on that time. If any defensive player create contact from behind or laterally, that foul should be unsportsmanlike foul. This unsportsmanlike foul rule is applicable unless until that player, offensive player, start his act of shooting. Ankush, can you show 6 and 7 video? Ankush, you can see this yellow team is going for fast break. Blue player from laterally he create contact before yellow player's act of shooting. He start his act of shooting. So this is a unsportsmanlike foul. Next, please. Ankush, next video.
Next video, Ankush.
Ankush, next video. This is same. Next one.
Ankush, wake up, Ankush. No, not this one. Stop this video. Stop this video. Go back to the slide. This is criteria 5. Yeah. Yeah. Criteria 5 is an unnecessary no, this is next slide. Yeah. Contacts by the defensive player on an opponent on the playing court when the clock shows 2 minutes or less in the fourth quarter and in each overtime when the ball is out of bounds for a throw-in and still in the hands of the official or at the disposal of the player taking the throw-in. During that time, last 2 minutes in the fourth period or any extra period, when ball is in out of bounds situation, whether it is already disposed to the thrower or referee is holding the ball, during that time, if any contacts occur inside the court by a defensive player, that must be unsportsmanlike foul because
the intention of defensive player is not to start the game clock. So he wants to make a foul. So this foul should be called as an unsportsmanlike foul. Ankush, can you play the video number 8? Yes, this one. You can see after the basket, ball is outside the court, but before the thrower release the ball inside the court, red team commits a foul. They want to make the foul and get the ball. After maybe getting opponent 2 free throw, they will get the position 1 second. So in this situation, this is also unsportsmanlike foul. Coach Zoran, I don't know what happened with Norman sir. He is not here. Uh, what to do, because we don't have time, coach.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have time, and Norman sir is not here. I don't know what.
Okay, no problem. We can finish now. I just want to thanks to both of you for nice explanation. You know, you are for sure your experience help us a lot of today to better understand some situation. So again, I just want to say hello to everyone, to thanks to all coaches, and to suggest just please insist on proper technical, individual techniques and individual tactics, and it will be less problem with the referee on future games. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy. See you next time. Monday is Coach Matic.
Thank you, coach. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.